Hello everybody, my name is Oscar and welcome to my channel. In this video I wanted to continue off of my previous video where I made the basic chess app using ChatGPT. If you want to watch that one, I have the link down below in the description. Now in that video I had all the pieces and the board set up, but there were no rules. There was no idea of how rooks or bishops move or anything like that. There were also no rules about check, so in this video I wanted to try to use ChatGPT to add those rules so that we have a fully functional chess app. As a recap, this is what we got from the last video. As you can see, the pieces here can move however they want. They can jump over everyone. There is no rhyme or reason to how they should be moving. So in this video, let's go ahead and add some rules to this guy. So last time, ChatGPT gave us these empty functions. One was isValidMove, the isValidMove function, and another one was the isInCheck function. In theory, these functions should control how the pieces move, and that is how ChatGPT has set them up. It just did not give them any substance. Right now they're empty. Right now they just return true. So that makes every move valid. That's why we can do whatever we want in the app right now. So first, let's just ask ChatGPT to write this function for us. So let's start off easy and ask it to just write the function for the rook, and that's it. And so I'm just going to skip to the end of this. Okay, it's done writing the function now. I'm going to copy and paste it into the isValidMove function that's already in the code. And now that that's done, let's try to run the code and see what happens. Okay, so running the code gives us an error, and the reason is because I indented it poorly, so I just fixed that indentation, and let's try running it again. Okay, so now the app isn't crashing, which is a great start, but unfortunately these pieces aren't moving like rooks, so let's try to figure out why. And here I'm just going to fast forward because I'm just here thinking about what the issue is and putting some debug statements. That's all I do. I don't change any of the code. I just add some debug statements, but I'm just going to skip this part because I'm just trying to think and figure out what the issue is. Hmm. Hmm. Oh, I know why. It's because in the coordinates we have 3-digit numbers from 0 to 799, and we need to divide them by 100 and round down so that we get numbers between 0 and 7. We did this in the last video, but we also have to do it here, and this is just because it just happens to be something ChatGPT overlooked. So again, keep in mind that ChatGPT can't do everything for you, but it does make the process much, much faster. Still though, software development skills are really going to help when you find issues like this. But back to the problem, I am going to add some logic here so that it divides by 100. Once that's done, I'll try to rerun it, and I'm just going to fast forward through this part for you guys. I am just taking the start and end coordinates here and dividing them by 100. So now that that's done, let's try to run again. Now it looks like the pieces can move, but it's letting everyone move everywhere. I am going to skip over this part for you guys. Here I'm trying to figure out what went wrong with the code. Eventually I do figure it out, but it did take me a few minutes. I'll start the video again right from when I figure it out. So the issue turns out to be that I'm dumb and set this end coordinates to be equal to the start coordinate. So every piece was able to move everywhere because even if it was moving diagonally, or horizontally, for example, if it was moving diagonally or like a knight, the code was seeing that the row and the column were not changing because I didn't change the end coordinates. So I'm going to fix that so that the end variables are actually pointing to the right coordinates, and we're actually seeing if it is changing column or row or not. And okay, so the pieces can move now, and they're moving like rooks. So there's still a bit of an issue here. While I was making the other changes, I did notice I was not incorporating the transposing of the x and y coordinates, which was an issue in the last video. So that's something I'm going to have to do here also, and I think that's causing the issue we're seeing here. So I'm going to have to make that change, and I think once I make that change, this stuff should work. Okay, so I am going to make that change, and I'm going to skip over that part. And okay, now the pieces can move, and they're moving like rooks, and it doesn't look like they can move in other ways. They can't jump over pieces, and it looks like it's working fine now. Nice. That is kind of crazy. I didn't really have to think too much, and ChatGPT kind of saved brain power for me here. It actually gave me code logic for how to move a rook just by me asking for it in English. That being said, there is still one thing wrong with it here, and that is that it is not discriminating against what it can capture. It looks like the pieces are capturing pieces of either color, which we don't want. We would prefer if pieces were only able to capture pieces of the opposite color. And looking at the code, it looks like it's trying to check to see if the same piece is in the spot, which really only would stop it from capturing itself. But what we wanted to check is to see if the pieces are the same color. As you can see, the way that we set it up is that we have white pieces represented by capital letters and black pieces represented by lowercase letters. So all we need to do is write code that checks to see if the piece that we are trying to capture when we move has the same case as the piece that is moving. And I could write that function, but we could also just try to ask ChatGPT to rewrite the function for us with this in mind. So I actually am going to ask ChatGPT to change the section where you check if the ending piece has the same color, so that the black pieces are lowercase letters and the white pieces are uppercase letters. And I am going to skip over this part for you guys as well. And look at that. It actually made the code change. That's, again, pretty crazy how it's able to take English words like that and just actually implement it in code. And it looks like it did it with a one-line change too, which is probably better than what I would have been able to do in the same amount of time. So let's go ahead and run this. And running this, we can now see that the pieces no longer capture pieces of their own color, which is fantastic. So at this point, I'd say that we have successfully implemented the rules for a rook in chess. And it was reasonably fast because of all that time that it took for me to debug. I honestly feel like it wasn't that much faster than if I tried to do this task by myself. But at the very least, I don't think it took longer, which is important. So moving on at this point, I am going to add logic for the queen, knight, and bishop, and I'm going to fast forward over all of that. The challenges I faced for those were all the same as for the rook. The transpose issue divided by 100, not capturing pieces of the same color, etc. So I'm not going to show you guys
me going through that, as I don't think it's very educational. Once we are done with all of that, we were able to see that the rules were mostly implemented for all the pieces except for the king and pawn. These two turned out to be the most challenging. I'll also say that at this point that I'm not going to be implementing castling in this video, or en passant. In order to do that, I would need a history of the game position, because I'd have to know if the king or rook has moved at any point during the game to know if you can castle. And for en passant, you'd need to know if the pawn that is being captured had just moved two spaces in the previous turn, which again would require game history, which is not implemented right now with how ChatGPT has made it. If I wanted to do that, it would be tough to do with this app, because this app kind of already made a poorly designed app. There's a good amount of spaghetti code in here where I'm just tying things together. And I feel like if I really wanted to make a solid chess app with all of the rules implemented, it'd be better to just start over.
So yeah, with that in mind, this is the finished result. I did not implement the moves for king or pawn either. I kind of figured that the educational value from this video has kind of been reached. If I had just tried to add it for the pawn or for the king, it also would have just been me debugging and trying to figure out issues. But I think at this point, you kind of get the point of the video, which is you can use ChatGPT to write starter code, and then you could implement things based off of that code. And that was pretty well demonstrated with the rook. And so here, right now, I have it implemented for the rook, the bishop, the knight, and the queen. And so you can see in this video that the knight is moving perfectly fine, and as is the rook and the bishop and queen. I made it here so that the pawn and king can move however they like. So there's no rules for them. I am moving them, but it's not like they have any logic. But I think this is like a just again solid benchmark. And if you really wanted to continue from here, you could just proceed to just add even more rules. You could add the rules for the king. You could add the rules for the pawn. But yeah, I hope you guys learned something from this. At the very least, how useful ChatGPT can be for programming, like in the last video. I was able to implement the move set for most of the pieces, and if I pushed on a little further, I probably would have finished it for the pawn and king as well. And so if you want, you could try to use this to make other apps. I think I'm going to stop with the ChatGPT stuff for a while. I have some other ideas for stuff I want to make. Now that I have this chess app, I've been thinking of either making an AI for the chess app so that I could have a computer to play against. That might be a cool video to make. Or I was thinking of implementing kind of like a blindfolded chess where you'd be able to speak out loud and say something like bishop to b4, and the computer would hear it, and it would make the move for you in the app, kind of like an Alexa app would. I think both of those are cool ideas, but let me know in the comments what you guys would like to see. Please like and subscribe. Thank you for watching, and I hope you guys got something out of it. And until next time.